Welcome to Meaningful Mornings. Prince Arjuna does not want to be a disciple only in words. He wants to follow his words with actions, which is why he's actively talking and listening to Sri Krishna. I had asked all of you, what has activated you from this portion of Bhagavad Gita? And I'm going to read what Jagrati wrote. How Srimad Bhagavad Gita is made just for me. All the scenarios are so relevant and timeless. This is a thought from Tampa, now a thought from Pittsburgh, from Rupa. What has blown my mind, every single experience is for my evolution. There are no mistakes in this sense. Bhagavan, as if plants the confusion and also frees us from it. If Prince Arjuna hadn't been confused, would we have Bhagavan's teachings? If Mother Sita hadn't placed her eyes on Maricha, would we have witnessed Hanumanji's brilliance or Mother Sita's reuniting with Bhagavan Rama? Every experience is guiding me towards the self to realize there is no me, only he. For more than 60 weeks, our mornings have been meaningful. And reading these seekers' reflections on how meaningful every experience has become is very inspiring. Referencing Ramayana. When Hanumanji is looking for Devi Sita, he goes to the living quarters in Lanka when the sun is about to rise. And as he's searching for her, he sees Ravana. The word Ravana means the one who's noisy. And how does he see him? Sayana, which means he's sleeping. He continues to search and he sees Vibhishana. Vibhishana means the one who's courageous. And how does he see him? Jaga, that he's waking up before the sun to welcome the sun. This is a lovely expression of the verse we just studied about how for the ordinary person, when they're awake, the extraordinary are asleep. When the extraordinary are awake, the ordinary are asleep. In this further observation, Ravana is living in a Deha Nagari. And what this means, outside this looks like a mandir, but inside, all that is happening is bhoga. In English, outside there's a lot of beauty, but inside there's no purity. And many of us are like that. We give so much to being beautiful and so little to being pure. Even our institutions are like that. Outside, so much infrastructure, inside, so much politics. Whereas Vibhishana is living in a Deva Nagari, which means inside there is yoga, there is betterment, and so outside there is also mandira, which means there's beauty. And isn't that true? The more pure one's mind, the more confident they feel, the more others are drawn to them. I'm sharing all of this to encourage us to be reflective. In such a practical way, be a morning person, like all of you are. Invest less in the body and more in the mind, like all of you are. And one more practical technique on how to be reflective, this is called pratipaksha, which means always see another side. When we watch commercials, when we hear about other people's vacations, we only think of one side. How lovely this would be to have this piece of clothing, to stay at that resort. But there's another side. New clothes are harmful for the environment. Going on vacation often makes you more tired. When one is more reflective, one will engage in the right actions more. Verses 69 to 72 of chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita are a valedictory address, a reminder of what has been shared thus far. What has been shared is many thoughtful visuals. In verse 58, Sri Krishna gives us the visual of a tortoise and a thread. In verse 67, of a boat and wind. Just recently, verse 69, nighttime and waking. And now the visual we're about to study is of an ocean and rivers. A teaching technique to be highlighted is all of these visuals are to be visualized by the mind. Now, if you observe a typical teacher, what kind of visuals do they use now? Not ones for the mind, but ones for the eyes, correct? And we think that this is better, this is how students are learning. I conversely feel that we're reducing our expectations of how a student should be to making them complacent. And that's why I personally never use visuals in these classes, in my courses, to encourage people to reflect. Reflection adventures of the day. Visualize this with your mind. Your eyes are going to become old. Look at all of us with our glasses and corrective lenses. If our minds keep reflecting, they will never become old. They will only become more quiet. This is a famous verse, verse 70. Apuryamanam achala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantimapnoti na kama kami. First quarter. Apuryamana, which means being filled, coming from all sides. Yet, achala pratishtitam, despite so much of input, achala means unmoving. Pratishtitam, standing. This word has come many times. This first quarter is describing both an ocean and the one who's content. Referring to the ocean, samudra, that means ocean. Apaha means water. How does water come into an ocean? Primarily through rivers. Pravishanti yadva. The idea being that as these rivers flow into an ocean, the ocean is unmoving. The ocean is still. Now I'm going to pause here. Many years ago, I was teaching a portion of Srimad Bhagavatam, where one of the teachers that is highlighted in nature is an ocean. That an ocean has so much that comes into it, yet it never rises. And as I was teaching this, I was teaching a group of kids. Everyone had their hand up. They said, but Vivekji, ocean levels are rising. And I was so happy about how actively they were listening to this. And they're right. That's why I hesitate to use this example now in terms of practicality. In philosophy, you all understand what I'm sharing. But what's sad about this, and I'd read an article about this many years ago, that Sanatana Dharma, or Hinduism, is the first religion that will be affected by global warming. Because so much of our religion is invested or is referenced with nature. Correct? Just like the Ganga. That's a minor example. There's endless examples. The reference to the ocean, now to the one who's content. Yadvat, now tadvat. Kama yam pravishanti sarve. Desires or sense objects, yam, to that person, pravishanti sarve, also come in from all directions and fill what? Fill their sense organs, fill their mind. Now the comparison to the unmoving still ocean, sashanti mapnoti, I'm on the last quarter, the content one is still peaceful. Na kama kami, but not the one who is depending on these desires, depending on these inputs. This is more of the translation. I will offer more personalization now. The one who's content doesn't just think. They also speak, they also sit, they also walk. As they're engaged in this multiverse, like all of us, their body still interacts. Their breath still inputs. Their mind still interprets. Their intellect still instructs. But what is different between a person like me and one who's content? They do not identify with the interactions and inputs and interpretations and instructions. The ego is that which identifies. The ego is that which depends on these equipments and experiences for contentment. But for the one who's content, they don't identify with the equipments, and so they don't identify with these experiences, which is why they are silent. In technical terms, this is because praptasya praptihi. Praptasya praptihi. They're not seeking completion in a way that they're not already complete. Rather, they're remembering that they're complete. See, this word apnoti means to gain or to attain. They don't gain or attain anything. All they do is remember that they are infinite. They re-identify with their nature. Na kama kami, one who still identifies with the ego, so the equipment, so the experiences, they're trying to find completion in that which is coming and going, which is why they're never silent, they're ever noisy. Continue to reflect on this verse. I will add more tomorrow. From inspiration to application. Your application from yesterday was to contemplate on the visuals shared by Sri Krishna in the signs of the silent. And I've reviewed that for you. Your application for this morning in Swami Chinmayananda's commentary. The second paragraph starts with, this idea is. And the second paragraph ends with, he is happy. I hope you can all see that. Your application is I want you to write this out on a sheet of paper with your hand, not copy paste, not take a photograph of this. I want you to write this paragraph out. That's your application. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Be safe, be sound, be serene, be happiness.